morning and welcome to the Prison to Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Herndon Sabor Steele. Before we begin today's conversation, I'd like to tell you a little bit about who I am and why this podcast exists. In 1986, at the age of 21, I was falsely arrested and subsequently wrongly convicted of second-degree murder. Thereafter, I was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole in the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, where I remained for nearly 4 decades before I was finally able to prove my innocence and was released on March the 13th, 2025. During those years, I experienced the loss of my parents, grandma, other family members, and I experienced countless moments that could have broken my spirit. But instead, I made a conscious decision that I was determined to not allow my circumstances to define who I was or who I would become. Instead of giving in to the bitterness that comes with incarceration, I began to focus on growth, purpose, and the belief that one day I would have the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of others. While I was incarcerated, I was employed as a peer educator in other capacities that allowed me to be a mentor and educator to the younger guys. And it was actually through this work that the vision for the Prison to Purpose Foundation was born. It was at that time I told myself and others that when I got out, I would start an organization dedicated to helping at-risk youth make positive choices and responsible decisions that would keep them out of prison and help them to become assets to themselves as well as society. That vision has become a reality. The Prison to Purpose Foundation is committed to violence prevention, mentoring young people, supporting returning citizens, connecting people with resources, and building stronger communities. This podcast is an extension of that mission. Every episode will feature honest conversations with people whose lives demonstrate that transformation is possible. We'll hear from returning citizens, community leaders, educators, advocates, and others who are working every day to create safer neighborhoods and brighter futures. And I want to be very clear about something. This isn't a podcast about glorifying prison. It's about showing that every life has value, every person deserves an opportunity to change, and every setback can become the foundation for a greater purpose. So whether you're a young person trying to make a better decision, or a returning citizen looking for hope, or a family member supporting someone you love, or simply someone who believes that returning citizens deserve a second chance and our youth deserve a better first chance, you are welcome here. I'm Herndon Sabor Steele, and this is the Prison to Purpose podcast, where we believe your past does not have to define your future, and every journey can lead to purpose. Today, we're joined by returning citizen Salim Rouse, who has agreed to share his journey openly and honestly. Me and Salim was actually neighbors on the same block of SCI Mahanoy for many years, and so we share a special bond. You know, we ate together, we prayed together, we laughed together, we cried together, we worked out together, we played ball together. I mean, this was my companion in prison, and he's my companion out here. And oftentimes in prison, you have to be careful about the relationships that you foster, because a lot of those relationships are built on ulterior motives. And throughout my nearly 4 decades of incarceration, I can honestly say that I've always felt a sincere level of brotherhood from a man, Salim. So without further ado, I welcome Salim to the show. Salim, tell the listeners a little about yourself, your background, and your journey before prison.
Assalamu alaikum, bro.
Thank you, Salim.
My journey before prison, I was 19 years old when I was arrested, when a SWAT team wrongfully ran in my crib and snatched me out of there, right? I was 19, so before that, I had like the typical upbringing of any other young black male living in the hood.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I went to Edward T. Steele School. That was my elementary school. Then I went to Central East Middle School. Then I went to Alney High School. Then I went to Edison, and then finally I went to Gratz High School, and that's where I was arrested while I was still enrolled there. But the upbringing was typical. I was like people see me happy go lucky now. I was always that.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't like what you see on Instagram. That's who I really am. Like in real life. So I'm not putting on a facade for the gram or for social media. Like, this is who I really be. That's why it's easy for me to do it. But my upbringing was school, basketball. Then I was influenced by the wrong things, like typically.
And that was my next question, like who, because I grew up in South Philadelphia, as you know, and growing up in the inner city, we tend to gravitate toward the negative influences. You know, I had my negative influences. Who would you say had the biggest influence on your life? Was it a group of people? You know?
My biggest negative influence was the hustlers in the hood.
Exactly.
The neighborhood hustlers. They will remain nameless.
No, right, absolutely.
The neighborhood hustlers.
Absolutely.
And drug dealers and all of that, right? Those were the biggest negative influences because, you know, as young impressionable youth, we seen what we thought was success.
Right.
With them, with their cars and the women and you know the money and you know all that. We seen that and we seen how they was obtaining that. So we thought that, you know, okay, we can go ahead. We're gonna take that same path. So those were the biggest negative influences. Were the people in my neighborhood who was quote unquote winning at drug dealing.
Right.
Those were the biggest negative influences.
And so, because of those negative influences, that you developed that, you know, that peer pressure, you know, amongst your peers, because y'all looked up to them guys.
Right.
So, you know, you felt the pressure of being in the city. You wanted to be just like them, just like inner city kids feel nowadays. They feel peer pressure and negative peer pressure from the people who they see in their neighborhood, who they see winning, who got the bag, as they say today. Right. Now, so looking back, when you look back, what would you say were the circumstances that led to your wrongful arrest?
Well, it's crazy because, like, I was literally in the process of purchasing marijuana when the police just scooped us all up. Like, they just did a little net. They did a little net. Like, anybody that was in a certain perimeter, they were just grabbing you all up. And I literally was in the process of buying marijuana to feed my marijuana addiction. So, you know, I look back on it, like it's like, you know, although I was wrongfully convicted, I still was doing something that was wrong. Right. I still was doing something that was wrong. I was, you know, and you know, you always look back and say, well, if I wasn't there, then that, you know what I mean? But I know as Muslims, you know, we can't do that. But it's still a reflection, nevertheless. You know what I'm saying? So that you know, so I could say like it was my addiction that led to me being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Right. So as a young kid, I'm sure you had dreams of, you know, who you wanted to become outside of the hustlers and the drug dealers. Like young kids, they want to be ball players. Nowadays, they want to be rappers. I wanted to be a ball player, and you know, that was my skill that I had. Did you have like one particular skill that you could say, well, maybe I could do this later on in life, but you just got derailed from that for whatever reason?
What I wanted to be when I was younger was a basketball player.
Right.
I wanted to be a basketball player. Even as a youth, I was always known for my defense. Even as youth, and one of my you know, everybody wanted to be like Mike, right? Everybody wanted to be like Mike. These young boys nowadays, they don't even know who Michael Jordan is. They want to be like Bron, and then they want to be like Ja, or they would be like Boogie Brunson, like now. But one of my you know, basketball like icons was Michael Jordan. So, you know, I thought that my path was going to be a basketball path. Right. And this comes from my dad. You know, he was a point guard for Penn State. Then all of my little, like even like it was some key dudes in my circle, even though we was drug dealers, they had vicious ball games. Right. So sometimes we'll go out to the park, like on certain weekend days as a group. We used to go up Mayfair all the way up the boulevard, the Northeast. We used to go up there. We used to play ball at Boney's, right across the street from Gratz, at the Boys and Girls Club right across the street from Gratz. We used to go over to the park. So we used to we played ball. We played ball. So I wanted to be a ball player until the negative influences, dominated.
Yeah, and that's. I was watching something the other day on YouTube. I think it was titled "The 6 Players Who Chose the Streets Over the NBA."
I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, you got to watch that. He had the GOAT. All these guys from New York. Nobody from Philly.
Okay.
But I can remember they had the man of GOAT, the guy they call the GOAT.
Okay, the GOAT. All right.
Pee Wee Kirkland. Everybody heard of Pee Wee Kirkland. And you had guys talk in the NBA, legends in the NBA who talked about how those guys was better than them. You had college coaches talking about Pee Wee Kirkland was the baddest thing he ever saw. They said Pee Wee Kirkland, he actually, I think, got drafted by the NBA, or he went to a meeting and they told him you can make $30,000, a year. Pee Wee Kirkland walked out of the meeting. He was making that a week. He literally got up and walked out of the meeting. So I mean, but that is part of the reality of growing up in a city. You have talent, whether it's basketball, football, whatever it is, right? But it's other things that derail you from pursuing your goals and your dreams in life. And that's actually one of the things that I want to try to combat through Prison's Purpose Foundation. Teaching kids and helping kids to pursue their dreams, right? And to be mindful and to be cautious of the negative peer pressure, because as you know, and as I know, one wrong decision can alter the whole trajectory of your life. One wrong decision.
Absolutely.
And so when you look back, like me, I look back, of course, and we both had time to look back on our life. I had 30 and a half years of incarceration. You was in there for 22 and a half, 23 years incarceration. When you look back, were there any warning signs that you didn't recognize then that you recognize now that were kind of like telling you and showing you, listen, you're going down the wrong path. You're going down the wrong path. Because we just don't recognize them at that time. Because as they said, when you knee deep in the game, you don't recognize signs. You got tunnel vision. So when you look back, were there any warning signs?
That question reminded me of an answer that Wallow gave, right? He gave a answer where he was talking about how, because now he's doing these skits where he's doing prison, and he's trying to reach the youth through those. Like, if you ain't gonna listen, you gonna watch this then, right? I ain't gonna keep telling y'all don't do it, because y'all always had somebody in y'all past that told y'all don't do this, don't do that. But you just kept on doing it, and that was my aunt. My dad was literally working 16 hours a day, and so he was in the picture, but because of work, when he pulled up, he had to go to sleep because he had to go back up to work again. So it was my aunt, my grandma, my grandpa. He spoke. He was a man of few words. He was more hands-on than verbal. Like he told me, don't be doing this, don't be doing that. But what he did more than that was, cause he said that I wasn't listening, he'd just take me fishing. I liked it to go fishing. Like I like fishing.
Right.
So a morning he'd just be like, yo, listen, get in the car. Anytime I get in the car with my grandpa, I know we gonna do something good.
Right, yeah.
So I don't ask no questions. He said, get in the car, take a ride. I know we going someplace. We gonna do something fun. We just go fishing. You know what I'm saying? So that was his way of pulling me from going to the block. Right. Or just doing something.
So your warnings came from family members. Verbal warnings. And likewise, I had my dad would always tell me, the guys in the street gonna get you in trouble. You know what I mean? You know, but I looked at Pop as Pop. You know, my pop was from North Philly.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Alright.
And I remember one time, you know, he actually got me in the car and took me out North Philly around 30 for 20 for Susquehanna, somewhere out that way, and showed me the guys that he grew up with. Right? They were still standing on the corners with wine and all that kind of stuff. Where he was a city worker, sanitation department. You know what I mean? And
Okay.
he was warning me, if you don't get away. He got away and made a career for himself. Right? That was his way of showing me, listen, I'm telling you, pursue what you want to pursue, this basketball thing, because I was good. You knew that from prison.
Nah.
Like-
I heard about you. I heard about you.
Yeah,
You
but-
still had a shot even in your 50s. Good though.
Yeah, but that was his way of warning. I didn't take heed.
Right.
But I also had signs in the street. Not that I was going to be falsely arrested and wrongly convicted of a murder.
Right.
Because that wasn't, you know what I mean? But signs were like, the guys I was around, getting in trouble. Even when I wasn't with them. When I look back, that was a sign for me that this guy keep getting in trouble. One day he's going to get in trouble, and I'm going to be with him.
Mm-hmm.
One day he's going to do something, but I don't see it like that. I mean, until I'm in prison now, and I recognize with many signs that told me it was the wrong path and that was the wrong crowd.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, to any youth out there who's listening, you got to take heed to the warning signs, and you got to look at them for exactly what they are. Now, if someone had reached you earlier, a mentor, a youth advocate, you know what I mean, one of your old heads that came home from prison and may have pulled you up and talked to you, how do you think you would have responded to that? Do you think that would have had an impact on your life?
If someone would have gotten, not if someone would have gotten to me earlier. If I would have listened earlier,
Right.
now this is for the youth, right here, right? Because I know y'all all going through this right now, where you got people in your ear telling you, don't do this, don't do that, do this, and they talking about doing something good. And then you got the other dudes, right, that's telling you, man, do this,
Right.
which is the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
Had I would have listened, had I would have listened, I guess maybe what we could say is that maybe we would have arrived at a more positive outcome sooner, right? I guess that's the message to the youth, is that if you listen now, you can arrive at a better positive outcome sooner.
Right.
You won't have to go through not listening. Taking a risk of not listening, and then end up being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then next thing you know, you got a gang of time.
Absolutely.
Cause you either gonna listen now, or you gonna listen later. But then again, some dudes don't even listen later, because we know people out of state that still ain't changing.
Still ain't changing, yeah.
That still ain't changed. You know what I'm saying? They
right.
got 30 years. They got 20, 25 in, and you the same dude you was when you came in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, for the youth out there, or for anybody that just, because it's about, for the youth, it's about when you change. For the older people, it's about changing as soon as possible.
Right, exactly.
It's about changing now, right?
Yeah.
So, for the youth, if you listen now, you got a better chance of having a more positive outcome later.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? You got a better chance. And then I reached one youth, and it was just off of one conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Oh, hey, I've been seeing you and all that. Seen your story, man. I'm dealing with, a lot of drama in the streets." And I said, "How old are you?" He says, 17. He said, give me some advice. I said, because he wanted to go into juicing.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Man, I used to sell juices, man, but then
Right.
I ended up getting into something in the streets and all that. So now I'm like hesitant to, because I want to go out there like how I see you doing it, right?" I said, "Hold on, youngin, because if you got some stuff going on out here in these streets, you can't necessarily
Can't-
do
Right.
the way I'm doing it.
Right.
My
right,
face is out there. I'm everywhere without no fear because I don't got no ops.
Right, right.
Right.
You can put your whole situation on Instagram.
Right.
You let people know
Know
you
where
at.
I'm gonna be at and all
Exactly,
that because ain't nobody
exactly.
looking for me.
Right, right.
If you got something going on out here in the streets that's drama related, I don't advise you
Right. That's good
to
advice
do
you gave me.
what I'm
Exactly,
doing
Exactly.
because somebody know exactly where you're gonna be at,
Mm-hmm.
or lie like they want some juice and line you up.
Right.
Have you come right there, pull up like how I be doing it and X, Y, Z. But I still ask Lord protect me when I'm on my routes.
you
I
have
still
to.
ask Lord protect me when I'm about to go ahead and drop me. Lord protect me from the evil that I don't see.
Right, right,
Right.
right.
And then I go.
Mm-hmm.
But I told him, he said, I don't think I could do that. I said, well then you gotta leave. You got people in like another state or whatever that could like support you in whatever you trying to do your future and all that. He's like, yeah, I got people that live in XYZ. I said, well, I think you need to call them and go out there.
And see, and that's the problem. And I told a young guy the same exact thing. As a matter of fact, I told somebody this from prison that who was on his way out. And, you know, a lot of them young boys in prison now, they got lingering beefs in the street.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for whatever reason.
Right.
And, you know, young boy confided in me, and, you know, I was talking to him, you know, telling him how, you know, do the right thing when you go home and, you know, and be a family man. You got 5 kids. This young guy's 26 years old. He told me, he said, OG,
I started early.
he said, I got 5 or 4 different women.
Oh yeah, he running around.
You running around. I said, listen, when you got an obligation to all 5 of them, first and foremost, you can never fulfill your obligation to your children until you fulfill the obligation to yourself. You have to change.
Right.
You got any beef? He's like, it's a lot of beef.
Right.
I said, well, you gotta relocate.
Yeah.
And you can't look at it as if you running from anything.
Right now. But you are.
But you
But you
can't
can't
look at it like
that.
You can't look at it
Right,
like
right,
that. I didn't wanna tell
Tell
them
them
that,
that, right.
because it's an ego
It's
thing
ego
with these
thing.
kids nowadays. I don't wanna tell them that you running away, but what you, that's what you saving your life. You putting yourself in a position where you could be a father. So you have to relocate and start your life over. You're only 26 years old. There's no problem with relocating. But you know, when you tell these kids that nowadays, man, they look at it differently, man. You just have to keep it, and you know, you can't give up on them. And that's one of the reasons, another one of the reasons I started this foundation, because I'm not one to give up on kids. We can't give up on them.
Right.
You know, and something I want to clarify. We often refer to youth as at risk, right?
At risk youth.
At-risk youth.
I hear that term a lot.
And when people hear that term, the mind immediately goes to youth that grew up in dysfunctional situations.
Okay.
That they at
Right.
risk.
Right.
Maybe, and this is the sad reality of it, maybe the mom is getting high or the dad is getting high, mom is getting high, the dad is in prison, or both getting high. Some kind of dysfunction, you know, is in his life. But that doesn't mean that, I mean, he's at risk, but he's not the only person. You can have a child that comes from a functional family. The mother could be a lawyer, the father a doctor. Parents could be good. He's still at risk. He's still at risk.
Yeah.
He's at risk of peer pressure.
Peer pressure, right?
And giving into peer pressure.
Negative influences.
Negative influence. He's at risk of making a wrong decision that could alter the trajectory of his life. So he's still at risk kid. We don't want to stereotype this term at risk and automatically apply it to kids who come from dysfunctional backgrounds.
Right. Nah, but people with their families' addiction.
Right.
And all that. That's what the main one, right?
Yeah, because
but it's not limited.
it's not
to
limited
that.
to that.
Right.
It's not limited to that, right? You know, and not only are they at risk, they are in danger. These kids are not endangered.
Okay.
Like endangered species.
Right. They're endangered
They
species.
are an endangered group of kids, an endangered generation. And so I believe that it's our job, guys like you and I, who have been in prison, transformed our lives, right? Became who we are in prison. And we have a duty, man, to come out here and try to save these kids. That's just my firm belief. I don't think, we both heard the term, to whom much is given, much is required, right? You and I have been given much, and other guys too. We'll address this, but we have been given much, and that's another chance to live in society as productive citizens. Now, because of that, much is required from us. We're not afforded the luxury of just sitting back and not doing nothing. Not that we owe a debt to society, because we don't. You and I were wrongfully convicted. So we don't owe society a debt. I don't look at it like that.
Right.
But at the same time, we want to contribute to society, not as a debt, because that's who we are.
Right.
We
Right.
prayed for the chance to come out here and be productive citizens. And now we out here. And part of being productive, man, is trying to help these youth and save their lives.
And probably like I didn't see that youngin for a couple months after I had that talk with him,
Right.
and then he had DM me a picture, and he was in another state.
Good. See?
He was in another state. You know what I'm saying? And he was just like, one of the, I took heed to what you
It's
said.
a beautiful thing.
And I'm down here with such and such. If you ever coming down this way, let me know. We can link up and all that. But
Right,
that he
right.
want me, because I never got a chance to meet him. We were just on Instagram. We were just DMing each other.
Mm-hmm.
And and he actually took heed to it.
That's a beautiful thing.
got
And I commend you for that. You actually used that Instagram platform
Right.
to save
Right.
this kid's life.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I
He
mean?
was all smiling like, I'm down here,
Yeah, to save not only his life, but possibly the life of somebody else.
Right, somebody that be attached to him, maybe his girl or something, or his whoever he be with at the time,
Absolutely.
where the drama gonna come. So
Right.
you actually removed yourself.
Right, and
So, yeah,
that's
he got
a
those.
beautiful thing, and I commend you for that. Right. Now let's talk about life inside of prison. Life inside of prison. 19 years old when you was falsely arrested, subsequently convicted
Right,
of murder,
CF.
and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole in the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections. Just let that sink in for a minute, because that's something serious. That is for a night. I was 21, same age basically. You know what I mean? So your very first day in prison, what was that like?
It was an eye opener.
Yeah.
It was an eye opener, man, because the first time that I've been to 8th and Race was for this case. And I've been to 8th Race ever before. I never been to the Roundhouse ever before until this happened. So that was the first thing, was 8th and Race. And I've been locked up before and been in precincts and all that, but I get bailed down, then I'm out.
Right.
But that one right there, it was no bail.
Yeah.
So I wasn't leaving. So now I had to spend the night, and until they came in the morning and all that. Then took me to CF. This is my first time at the F, but it's not my first time on State Road. I had
Right.
other little drug cases and that, and I went to the House of Corrections.
Right.
But this is my first time at CF, and